are these people?
Hello there, Space Monkeys. Welcome to Political Fight Club. I'm Robert Durden. This is going to be an INN exclusive. I'm going to be ranting and raving about liberals gaslighting progressives and people that are on the true left who really want to protect women's rights in this country. Now, they're gaslighting us, which, if you don't know what gaslighting is, it's when people tell you you don't know what you're talking about, logistically you're just wrong, you don't understand politics. And the liberals are doing this to a lot of progressives who are like, yeah, it's the Democrats' fault that they haven't codified Roe v. Wade into law over the last 50 years. They are to blame. They are in power right now, and they're not doing anything to protect women's rights. Therefore, it's not so much the Republicans' fault. They have no power in Congress. They don't have the White House. There are many times over the years where there have been Democratic majorities and even a supermajority under Barack Obama, which is a filibuster-proof majority. They could have gone around the filibuster and codified Roe v. Wade. They could have, as Barack Obama promised he would do on the campaign trail, they could have legislated the Freedom of Choice Act. And then when we put him into office, a year later, he came out and said that's not his legislative priority. That would have codified Roe v. Wade. You bring up any of these things to a liberal who wants to defend the Democratic Party at all costs. That's why they gaslight. They gaslight you into oblivion, say you don't understand politics, say that this is Joe Manchin's fault because the Senate can't get rid of the filibuster or they don't have enough votes in the Senate. No, those people are full of shit. There are numerous things that the Democrats could have done over the years, and they could do this very second. And this is what's irritating me over the last week, is now the Democrats have manufactured a position where it's now, they're pretending like they're powerless to actually protect Roe at the moment, when they have all the power in the world to protect Roe right this very second. They're omitting details about how they could go about doing that and just saying, no, you must put more of us in office and then we'll protect it. And if you don't believe that, then you don't know what you're talking about. They gaslight you. So I'm going to go over some specifics, guys. Anybody that tells you this is either severely misinformed. More likely, they're straight up just defenders of the Democratic Party at all costs. They work backwards from that conclusion. That's confirmation bias. Confirmation is Democrats can do no wrong, everything's Republicans' fault, and work backwards from that. But there's numerous things that have happened in history where we could have codified Roe v. Wade if the Democrats had a majority, which we've had numerous, and we didn't do it. So I'm going to use another analogy that I used in a separate episode. The Democratic Party is like a goaltender in sports. Hockey goalie, a soccer goalie, something like that. And what they do is they refuse to stand in the net. And then the other team, which is the Republicans in this metaphor, keeps scoring goals. And all that goaltender who refuses to stand in the net and actually defend against the Republicans does is say, no, it's the Republicans' fault. It's the other team's fault for they're scoring left and right. It's their fault. They're the ones scoring goals. And if you go over and ask them, well, isn't it your job to protect the net? Isn't it your job to stand in there and stop the puck or the ball? They'll go, no, it's not. No, it's really the Republicans' fault. They just keep shooting it at the net. Has nothing to do with me standing over in the corner and not playing defense against these people. These people were put into office to make sure the Republicans don't get this stuff done. And now they're blaming the Republicans. They're blaming progressives who question them. They're blaming everybody but themselves. They blame Susan Sarandon for Hillary Clinton losing, even though Hillary Clinton wouldn't have codified Roe because she chose Tim Kaine as her running mate, and Tim Kaine was anti-abortion. So don't give me this bullshit. They're gaslighting you. These people are just Democratic defenders. And when I say defenders, they defend the Democratic Party and the duopoly and the status quo, and that's why they gaslight you. So there have been numerous times over the history, Jimmy Carter, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, and now Joe Biden have all had majorities for at least 2 years, and Barack Obama had a filibuster-proof 60-vote majority briefly in Congress, and 59 votes, meaning he was very close to a filibuster-proof supermajority for a long period of time. He just had to whip one vote to have that majority in the Senate, and they could have codified Roe at any point. They could have codified Roe at any point. He said on the campaign trail, right as he was about to get elected in 2008, that his priority would be to pass the Freedom of Choice Act. And then in 2009, when he was elected, he said that that was, quote-unquote, not his legislative priority anymore. These people are not going to defend Roe. They never have. And they could defend it right now by codifying it, and they're not doing that. Now, tell me where the logic is in this statement. We need to elect Democrats to codify Roe in the midterms, even though the Democrats have a majority right now that can protect Roe, and they're not doing it. They assume everybody is too fucking stupid to understand that they right now have just been given a majority by us in 2020, which they begged for, to do things like protect Roe. Did they do it? No. Did Joe Biden follow up on his campaign promise, which was to force the Congress to send the Freedom of Choice Act to his desk and he would sign it? No, he didn't do that at all. He hasn't whipped votes at all. Not in 2 years. So these people are lying to you. They assume that you're too stupid to understand that if they're not codifying Roe right now with the majority that they have, they're not going to do it with any future majorities that you give them. The reason that they're doing this is for fundraising. They need to scare the shit out of you, and instead of giving you something to vote for, they need to scare the hell out of you and give you a boogeyman, i.e. the Republicans taking away women's rights and black people's rights and just in general poor people's rights as something to vote against. Again, this is just the whole Trump bad and you have to vote against Trump, otherwise fascism's going to creep in, repackaged. It's just that same thing. They're just using the Republicans as a scapegoat, and if you're really the type that is not involved in politics, you might fall for a trick like this. You may not know that all of those Democratic presidents I just told you, Carter, Clinton, Obama, and Biden, have all had majorities, and they could have codified Roe at any point. If you don't know that, then you might be like, oh shoot, we actually do have to kind of vote blue because they're saying that they're going to protect Roe v. Wade. But if you know history and you know exactly what's going on right now, you know that Joe Biden could have codified Roe today. The Congress is a Democratic majority. All he'd have to do is whip a few votes in the Senate, or better yet, you don't have to abolish the filibuster even. You could even just do budget reconciliation, or they couldn't do it now, but they could have done this before. They could have included the Freedom of Choice Act in a budget reconciliation bill, and that would be like the Build Back Better bill, for instance, and then just overrule the parliamentarian when she says it can't be in there. That's another way they could have done it. They could today expand the Supreme Court. They just need the senators to do that, and they have a majority in the Senate, with Kamala Harris being the tie-breaking vote. That's 51 to 50. They could do that. They could abolish the filibuster. They're not doing that. So there's numerous things that they could do right this very second, and they're not doing it because they need fundraising fodder. So it's irritating that a lot of these shit libs, these Rob Reiner types, are like, well, now this is the most important election in history because women's rights are on the ballot. No, they're not. Women's rights are up in the air right now because the Democratic majority didn't codify Roe v. Wade. And they need this because they haven't given us anything to vote for, like a $15 minimum wage or anything that makes us excited about getting Democrats in there. So they have to create a boogeyman. So it's just the same thing that they did back in 2020. They're, using Trump in 2020, something to vote against, something very, very scary that's going to usher in fascism. And now they're doing the same thing. They allow the Republicans to do what they've said they're going to do for 4 decades, which is get rid of Roe, get rid of women's rights to their own body. They allow that to happen deliberately, and then they use that to fundraise on. And don't even get me started on, like, Anita Hill. For instance, Joe Biden disparaged the living shit out of the woman who was sexually assaulted by Clarence Thomas. He's now on the Supreme Court right now. Is the black gentleman who is a Republican on the Supreme Court. He never would have been on the Supreme Court had Joe Biden not gone out there and destroyed Anita Hill. So you tell me, does Joe Biden really care about women's rights? Just that little tidbit of history right there should tell you everything you need to know about Joe Biden himself. He's voted against Roe v. Wade when he was in the Senate. He lied to you on the campaign trail, said that he was going to pass legislation, the Freedom of Choice Act, and then didn't do it once he was given a majority and the presidency. He has done everything in his power over the years to take away women's rights. He was for the Hyde Amendment, that's an amendment that takes away funding for Planned Parenthoods. He was against that until 2019, when finally he was dragged into admitting that he was against it because he was running against Bernie Sanders. But if you ask me, he just said that because he was getting backlash for being anti-woman, which he should. So anything that you can pick any one of these points, guys. These people don't give a shit about women. Nancy Pelosi and Jim Clyburn, they endorsed and got behind Henry Cuellar in Texas's 28th district last month. Henry Cuellar is anti-abortion. and the person running against him in a razor-thin race was Jessica Cisneros, and she's pro-choice. She's also for, common sense gun control, and Henry Cuellar is getting an NRA rating of A or A+. And they didn't get behind her. So when they tell you that they're for, gun control, and they tell you they're for protecting kids, and they tell you they're for a woman's right to choose, they're full of shit. They won't even endorse the people that are for that stuff in these races. So they do literally nothing. They will go out on the steps of Congress and sing "God Bless America," though. They don't really give a shit about black people and women. They will kneel in kente cloth while singing "God Bless America." You can bet your bottom dollar on that. We have a country right now where black people are routinely, daily, killed by police, brutalized by police all the time, and women just lost their right to their own body. But, at least we have the first female woman of color is the VP of the presidency, right? Kamala Harris is a black woman, so that's progressive. That's going to change some things, right? And that's what the Democrats will tell you. It's like, well, what we need to do is just make sure that the next president is either a female or a black person. And that will help black people and females. That's the Democratic Party in a nutshell. They don't give a shit about actually helping black people or women, but they will elect Kamala Harris VP and act like that's some sort of victory. Very sad day in America. And keep fighting that good fight out there, guys. I love you. The only way we're going to get any change is if we hit the streets.